All right, welcome back. This is episode 9 of Art of Resilience. I'm your boy and host, Hussein Albiati. I'm with the incredible Kiki. This woman is someone that I am inspired by on so many levels because, man, we met at, I think it was one of the Beaverton Night Markets, and she has this spirit that is intertwined with culture in a way that, it's hard to really point to these people sometimes. So I had to bring her to the show to tell her story, tell us about her amazing Tibetan culture, but also why it's important to educate, our youth and how we educate our youth. And I just love her approach. She has an amazing YouTube channel we'll talk about. She has an amazing story. So welcome, Kiki. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us today. So let's start. I want to kind of just introduce you to people. Tell us about who you are, what you do, and how you got into cooking and making recipes and all these beautiful things.
Okay, well, thank you first of all so much for giving me the space to shine a light on my story, which probably is a common story for a lot of Tibetan living in exile. So my name is Kiki, and I immigrated to the United States about 2 decades ago probably. As far as cooking is concerned, it kind of happened very organically, telling the story of my culture, our struggles through the lens of food. It wasn't intentional to begin with. It happened upon parenthood. When I became a mother, I found myself kind of naturally gravitating towards using food as a way to have my kids reconnect with and explore the Tibetan side of their identity, So that's how it all started. So initially it was for the kids, and then that grew because I came upon a market, a local market called Beaverton Night Market, where I saw other small, those that are normally underrepresented cultures being represented, and I was like, I want my culture. I want my culture represented too. But then I was, there is that voice in my head. I have no professional culinary background. I can't do this. Oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. So when I applied for Beaverton Night Market, I kept it a secret because in my head I told myself, I would never be accepted. Like, why would I,
Yeah.
So that's how it all began.
Wow. And we'll talk about that more because that's a layer of resilience, that self-doubt, the I'm not good enough, how do I represent, keeping things a secret because you're battling with how you present yourself or how dare you represent a Tibetan culture, right?
Yes.
Like, how dare you?
Yes.
And we as immigrants and refugees, we all have that sort of this innate weird feeling of like, you want to do it because you want to represent, but then it's a second guessing of like, am I even good enough or whatever?
There is always that strong desire to be represented. And sometimes when there is that void, you feel like, okay, since nobody's doing it, I gotta do it. But then there is always that weight at the back of your mind. It's like, am I worthy of representing? Since I'm the only one doing it, it's kind of by default, the weight kind of falls on you, So at the back of my mind, I always feel like, am I honoring my ancestors and our struggles? Am I doing it right? So yes, there's always a part of me. I'm trying to make progress. I'm trying to get better every day. But there's always that conscience, self-check. Yeah, it's like, okay, I gotta do my best. Because this is not just my story. I'm telling it for our people. So
right, yes, you bear the weight of culture and an identity that's deep. For especially, I 100% relate to you. Tell me, let's go back a little bit. Tell me about your story, your family, like how you guys came to the United States. When was that, and what was that like?
So it was a couple of decades ago. like many Tibetans living in exile, as we say, we were displaced from Tibet because of the political situation and the occupation of Tibet by the Chinese Communist government.
Sure.
So as a result, my parents, when they were little, they fled across the Himalayas into the neighboring countries of Nepal and India, which is where a large concentration of the Tibetan refugees had settled.
Right.
And that's where I was born and I grew up. So that's why I'm very familiar with the Indian as well as the Nepalese culture as well.
Yes.
And yeah, fast forward, I grew up there. And I always wanted to go to America.
Yeah.
The American dream, right?
Yes.
I did not want to settle and get married and bear children at a certain age. I
Right.
wanted to do more. I felt I could do more, and I felt that I could do so by going to America. And I was fortunate to get sponsored by an American family who felt that it was worth investing in my future. And so as a result, I came here, and that was a couple of decades ago with some $100 and something in my pocket.
Wow.
And a suitcase full of my Sunday's best and a portrait of His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a memory that I will never forget, stepping into an American airport and feeling a sense of so much overwhelm, so much gratitude, and so bittersweet having to leave everything you knew behind. So I came here by myself.
Like, you know you're home, but that's not where you are born. That's not where you live. That's not and so you have to experience your true identity through the people around you and through what is possible for you, right? Because overall we realize that we're not necessarily from a particular place on earth. We're from earth, right? And we can carry our identity anywhere we go. And when you told me this story, it always stuck with me, because that's essentially, the Tibetan culture is such a pivotal piece of like human history, human collective story. And I love it because I went to Ladakh, India.
Oh, you
in
did?
college. Yeah.
It's called the Little Tibet.
Yes.
Yes.
It is one of the, you guys, it is one of the most beautiful places on earth. I saw for the first time, I'll tell you this story. I got up for the call to prayer. This was like 2 days. We had just arrived, and I was part of my architecture travel. And we were going to be there for a month and a half. A little town called Leh, outside of Ladakh.
Yeah.
And they were building a monastery there, and there's, beautiful monks and people. Oh my God, the culture just everywhere, every nook and cranny. And what was beautiful was I heard the call to prayer, and I haven't heard the call to prayer since I was a baby, right? Because I've been in America. And I was like, oh my God, it was like a calling. It wasn't just a call to prayer, it was a calling. And that was one of the first times I revisited that part of my life. And I never stopped ever since. But I went and I got dressed. I went down and I kept listening to it. And like I literally just listened to it to see because I've never been in this town before. Sure enough, I come across the mosque. Right as I get into about to get into the mosque, I saw a Tibetan man, a monk, holding hands with a guy who was Muslim. And the only reason I know this, they were literally holding hands walking. It's dark, it's not even daylight. And they hug each other. They kiss each other on the cheek. And one man goes into the monastery and the other man goes into the mosque.
Beautiful.
And it was like a sign, like I'm getting emotional thinking about it, because it was such a beautiful sign of exactly where I needed to be, exactly what I needed to see to identify with who I am as a person. And here I am talking to someone of descendants, right, of this culture. And here you are, fully present, fully engaged with your culture and how you want to educate. So Kiki, you came to us, you came to America, you brought this message, right? This is what I like to call it. As refugees and immigrants, we all bring a message with us. And that's why I started this show, to share that. So tell us, how did you start growing this business? And then where did you take it, especially in the last year?
Yeah. I don't know that I would have pursued as hard if the community response wasn't so great. So I feel that I definitely owe gratitude to the community for really embracing what I represented and my story through the lens of food at these markets, you know. So that really reinvigorated my passion, really fueled my passion. And it is that same type of moral support and interest and engagement on social media now that in pandemic we don't have pop-ups,
Yeah.
that really keeps me going when somebody says, I didn't know that about Tibet, or I didn't know that about your culture, and so on. It reaffirms that this work has to be done. It has to continue, even if it's one person at a time. It has to be done. And yeah, so that kept me growing. So I participated in more markets, local markets, like you said, doing pop-up events. And that kind of organically grew to, well, I would like to grow my reach beyond my geographic, local scope that I have. So that's how it went to social media, when I realized the power of social media in reaching places and people that I could otherwise never reach within our city,
Yes.
And that's when I started putting in a lot more effort into storytelling. That's what I believe ultimately it is.
Yeah.
You see food, people see at face value food, but really it is storytelling. I am sharing stories, bits of my life that are very similar to what many Tibetans and exiles go through, And so, yeah, it progressed from pop-up events to social media. And then when the pandemic started, I felt like now that I can physically be at the market selling the food and representing my culture through food, I'm going to teach people how to actually make them, And so that's when I started my YouTube channel journey less than a year ago, when I started sharing my recipes and teaching people how to make Tibetan food.
You have a unique story, and you're weaving aspects of your story and why you use such spice and where does that spice come from, and and then you tell a piece of that story about the village in which it comes from, and that's how we can make that connection to the human elements, and we start to respect who carries those things right into our lives. You get to practice this amazing art. Now you also wove it with social media, which you're a powerhouse in, because you really, you spend a lot of time growing it and putting the effort in, because I see it and it inspires me. And so, for people out there that are starting businesses, starting things, whether they're cooking or starting a t-shirt thing, or, it's all the same, right? What would you say to our friends out there that are starting or in the middle of their thing, or maybe they're about to give up, but they have a similar idea of like, I want to share my culture, I want to share my story, what are some things, maybe some tips that you would give them if they're sitting here with us, what would you give them as far as words of advice, words of wisdom?
I am still learning every day myself, and I look back even 2 days ago and I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't very effective. But it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had an opportunity to give some words of advice based on the experience I've had, definitely knowing your why, your purpose. Don't get lost in all that noise. It's so easy to get distracted from your purpose on social media. There is what is that slang called? Feeling FOMO, isn't that what they call it?
Yes, FOMO.
Feeling of missing out or something. There is that automatic, I guess, desire to try and keep up with everybody, the latest trends and whatnot. Never been a big follower of trends, but as long as you're clear on your why, which is what makes you unique and consequently what makes your story unique, that's going to be your differentiator, your market differentiator, if you were to say it from a business perspective, business standpoint. Yeah, and then once you have that, staying authentic again goes back to trying to keep up with all trends and kind of wavering away from your main focus. I think staying authentic, being genuine, and sometimes that means having to take stands that may not necessarily be the trendiest or the most popular, and that's okay. Don't get caught up in the likes and the comments. Those are nice, those are in some sense cosmetic reaffirmations, so quantity is sure, immediate satisfaction or short-term satisfaction. You get an immediate validation with likes and hearts and
Yes.
whatnot. But I feel that quality of engagement is even more important than having, let's say, 1,000 likes versus 100 people that are truly engaged in what you're saying, you know? So in hindsight, I feel that, yeah, that quality is way better than quantity. And I know it's easier said than done because we're all humans and we all
Yes.
want that validation. So I get it.
Yes.
I've been there myself, but I've corrected myself enough that now I feel like I have a little better grip on trying to stay focused on my message, on my purpose, and then most importantly, staying authentic. Staying as authentic as you can.
I'm super grateful that you mentioned that because it's something that I've struggled with too. Everyone struggles with it.
Everybody.
And so, for us to say like, okay, here's a platform, here's some microphones, here's some cameras. I was once a refugee. My art and my work should shed light on refugees. I can't save them all. I can't help them all. But if I can continue tell my story through my art and sharing other people's stories, maybe we can all start to drum, right? And if everybody's drumming, then there's an amplification of the voice. It gets louder. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's a strobe light. And if I can point it to the social issue, right, in a beautiful way so that people start to ask questions like, what's going on over there? Why haven't I heard about this? Or I didn't know this about your culture. I didn't know this about Muslim people, or I didn't know this about Tibetan people. That's when you start to know, then you can't ignore. For me, it was a lot of, I mentioned this in my upcoming book. I'm gonna plug myself here.
Totally.
I call it the layer of supportive structures. And supportive structures, not physical supporting things, right? But the people around you, the friends, the husband, the wife, the daughter, the son, the uncles, whoever, right? Or people back home, people that we haven't even met yet, that are online, but they're true, loyal people that'll buy every t-shirt I put out or, watch every episode. Those people are my supportive structures. Would you say that you have some supportive structures? And who are they?
Yes, absolutely. Probably my mom is my biggest cheerleader.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. In the beginning, it puzzled her mind that I was so interested in cooking. Cooking, I think, for a lot of immigrant, especially the older generation, is not the most coveted profession. It's something that maybe if you haven't had higher education, then you resort to that. So in her mind, being from the older generation, she couldn't understand why my educated daughter would be interested in, cooking related stuff, But now she's come around and she has seen the power of food and storytelling and how I use that as a medium to reach people all across the world and share about our culture, and in the process help in the preservation of our culture by telling our story. So now she sees, and she is always wanting to know what is my next project. How many likes I got, constantly sharing my content. I'm like, Mom, you're doing a little overdoing it. Take it down a notch. I feel sometimes it's interesting. On the one hand, I love the raised awareness that I get by people sharing. On the other hand, if there's too much, I feel uncomfortable with the spotlight. That's just my personality. So I'm like, Mom, take it down a notch. You're really kind of being obnoxious. Like, don't. But yes. My parents, my siblings, pretty much. I have been fortunate to have a small circle of individuals within my immediate family that have been very supportive. They always feel or say that, if I want to do it, I can do whatever I put my mind to it. And that's kind of the personality I've always been since I was little. It's like, I feel like I have to prove to myself, not to anybody else, to myself. I feel like people aren't really my competition. As I always say, even on my social media, I shouldn't be perceived as a threat to anybody. I am my own competition. I am trying to compete myself and make progress from try to be better than I was yesterday, hopefully. So yeah, I am lucky to have, in the process of my social media journey and my pop-ups and YouTube channel, also generated a very loyal and supportive group of people from all over the world.
Yes, and I love that. And yeah, man, our supportive structures. Shout out to all of you that support us, especially us immigrants and refugees. And you're our allies. You are our people who really believe in us when no one else did, and started to believe in us when we started to really believe in ourselves. Right. I love that. I wouldn't be anywhere without my brothers and siblings and my family as well. But furthermore, friends and colleagues, you know, people that I get to work with. And so, you know, with that, I think what's really unique about your story, Kiki, and I've had the honor of knowing you for, a couple years now because of the markets and stuff. I'm really excited to see where this goes, where this journey takes you. So, you know, is your plan that, you know, when we open back up a little bit more and markets start to open back up a little bit more, God willing, after this COVID situation sort of passes us a little bit more, do you plan on reopening like a food cart, a restaurant maybe, somewhere where we can have a constant feed of Kiki's amazing Himalayan dumplings and all the amazing food?
Yeah.
What's your plan?
Gosh, too many plans. That's my
Yeah.
problem. That's my strength, and my weakness is that I have so many ideas. I mean, externally, most people feel I'm very calm and collected, but internally in my brains, if only people could speak into it, it's a hurricane in there of ideas. So it's my biggest challenge is trying to narrow down and then consolidate my efforts with laser-like focus. Sometimes that's very hard, especially for immigrants and refugees, because you feel like there's so much to do and so much to help, and I want to help there, and I'm not doing enough, and then you kind of get stretched very thin. But my hope is that post-pandemic, I'm exploring different ideas. One of the things that I've always wanted to do is documentation. One of the reasons why I started on social media and YouTube is to codify a culture. You know, we have a history of storytelling, oral history, right? Everything is passed down orally, and the drawback of that is that it makes it a little harder in cultural preservation, especially as our Tibetan diaspora is scattered more and more. And then we have inter-ethnic relationships, which poses a certain challenge, as well as we try to embrace both the cultures and the relationship and so on. So documentation has been something that's always been in the back of mind. So along that line, my hope is that one day I will get to write a book. I want to write a book. So I have some ideas in that regard, and some other ideas that I feel like, oh, knock on wood, I'm not going to I'll jinx myself when I say that. But yes, I have bigger ideas to scale up my reach.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, we did talk a lot about your YouTube channel and your social media. So please tell us, where can people find you? I want people, as many people as I can, to follow you and learn from you. So tell us.
Yeah, so I am under Himalayan Dumplings with an S plural. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like some hands-on information or interested in cooking, or just like watching cooking, like I love watching cooking food shows.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can find me under Himalayan Dumplings.
Amazing. You guys, please go follow her YouTube channel. Please go follow her on Instagram. You will not regret it. I promise you that. So lastly, my last question that I love asking all my guests is, you know, what is Kiki's state of mind? In
for
one
now?
word. Yes. For now, for past, or future?
At peace. At peace. But that said, it's not always constant. You know, there is always that struggle. You know, sometimes you are at war of thoughts in your head. There's conflicts in your head of what you should prioritize, whether you're doing enough, and so on. But then now, as I get older and as I've done this more, that feeling, that state of being at peace is growing.
I love that so much. You have no idea. I have a story for you real quick before we go. So at peace state of mind, right? So I designed a t-shirt called Peaceful State of Mind. And the reason I did that was because I watched the Dalai Lama speak in one of his speeches, and it brought me to tears because it's everything that I believe my Islamic culture is about, everything. I mean, he just shares such a human depth. And that whole week, I was just like, man, I'm at peace. Like, he just hit me so deep. And I have to do something with this word. And that's when I made Peaceful State of Mind. And the week we met was one of my first weeks at the Beaverton Night Market. And that t-shirt sold out. It was the first shirt that sold out that I've ever made. That we sold over, like, I think 40 or 50 t-shirts. And it's not, that's not like a million t-shirts, but the power in that, because it truly came from my inner being by listening to someone truly at peace. And I love that that's not only interwoven in your culture, but it's interwoven in you. So I'm super grateful for that. And it, it further pushed me to go deeper into what I want to say. When I made We're All From Somewhere, I was like, this is silly. I'm not, because it's almost so easy, right? It's so simple. But that's the identity of art. It's that it is simple. It is just bones, and that people put their identity on it. And so my goal, just from that one talk, I learned how to create something so simple that other people can attach who they want to attach to it. So I love that you said that.
Yes.
I love that we're going to call the episode that. And so I appreciate you so much. Your time, your energy, your resources, everything that you're doing is truly an honor to watch. So I hope for you to keep growing and keep doing it. And I hope to introduce you to more people. And I love to see you do the good fight. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And likewise to you as well. It truly is an honor to see another brother really pursue their passion, stay authentic as best as yourself can, on any given day. It can vary.
Yes.
But yeah, it fills my heart with pride. Something I think as it comes easier with age is like when we let go of our ego and envy, it becomes happier to be happy. Happiness can come from being happy for somebody else.
Yes.
It really is, so, and I'm fairly what is that word?
Introverted.
Not introverted. Self-aware of,
introspective.
Yeah, introspective, that's the word I'm looking for. And I have noticed that change in me as well is like happiness, and my idea and concept of happiness is like as I've become less envious of a person or less egotistical of a person and let go of those, it really becomes happy for me because there really is so many wonders to see in little things that we take for granted. And one of the things that gives me great joy is seeing people like you, brothers and sisters like you, especially from underrepresented or misunderstood communities, stand up and just be loud and proud in the best possible way that they can, and tell a story. It really makes me feel so proud. So
thank you.
It's an honor. It's an honor being on your show. So thank you for giving me the space. I really appreciate it.
You're 100% welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I plan to keep creating the Justice League, is what I like to call us, right? The real Justice League, people who are fighting the good fight to amplify our collective voice, to help our displaced communities, displaced people, to keep shedding the light through our own art. And we hope to make them proud and hopefully extend that sort of invisible hand and bridge to get them to be aware of what we're doing for them in that way, even at the smallest scale or the biggest scale.
Yes.
So thank you for being on this journey with me, and I hope to continue learning from you.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right. Hey, wait, just before you go, I have a little more to give. I want to give you a special discount code. But first, I hope you enjoyed our newest episode, recorded live in our Art of Resilience mobile studio. I want to give a huge shout out to our main sponsors, the Center for Retail Leadership at Portland State University. Look them up at pdx.edu. Also our friends at Portland Gear with portlandgear.com and Diaspora Coffee, an amazing company helping create jobs for refugees locally. I want to ask you though, are you struggling to build a good habit, overcome some self-doubt and fears, get focused on what you want to do, build a business, start writing that book and story? Simply setting up some goals to achieve this year? Well, you need some habits. And in order to build habits, we need daily practice. You got to join the Resilience Club, which happens on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7:30 a.m., where you are welcome to join for free and get into the best accountability club. Look, it's tough sometimes, and we don't have to feel alone in our journeys. We need some sort of push and someone to help guide us. Don't take my word for it. Look up the scientific facts behind accountability groups. You can join us easily as texting the word resilience to 503-461-1262. You can support us in two ways. One, by visiting Refutees.com, poking around, and you may find a t-shirt or a poster that inspires you. You can use the code SPECIAL20 for 20% off. This helps keep our podcast going and gives back to the refugee community. Two, if you want to further sponsor our work and be involved with our Art of Resilience project, please get in touch through Refutees.com. You can also share this episode and help us amplify our work to inspire and motivate. Thanks again for listening in. I hope to catch you next Wednesday for our newest episode. Trust me, you don't want to miss this.